Hey guys, it's Latula Arts, and this time I'm here redesigning old characters. Now, if this ends up being something people enjoy, I'll see what I can dig up regarding the other characters that were involved in this. As a kid, 14, 15 years old, and even before that, I tried to write a lot of stories, most of which were inspired by anime and were generally terrible and never finished. Some being literally just the ending, and others being like this, where it was a basic concept and nothing more. However, I had written out a bunch of characters for it. Now, this story in particular, I don't even remember if it had a name, but it was meant to be a murder mystery, psychological, paranormal, horror mashup type deal. A terrible idea that was executed about as well as you'd expect an edgy 14-year-old weeaboo to execute a story. And by that I mean it wasn't executed at all. Like I said, I never wrote it. All I did was make the characters and attempt a basic storyline, and it was terrible. This particular character's name was Sienna. Out of all the characters, she was the most normal. Name and all. She was the leader of the paranormal club thing that these kids were all in, and they did the usual paranormal club and anime things. Investigating paranormal happenings, most of which were debunked by them, and in general being looked at weird by their classmates due to a borderline obsession with ghosts. Sienna was from a wealthy family. Pretty much all of the kids were, but hers really didn't approve of her interests. But her father often gave in to her requests for expensive ghost hunting equipment because it was still a general show of wealth. She herself was bubbly and talkative. She was the closest to a self-insert I had in the story, which is typical, I know. She was the one who got everyone in the club together and was kind of the glue that held them there as well. And that's about all there was to her, just a happy, bubbly anime girl who likes ghosts. She was originally, much like me, a reddish-brown-haired pale girl with green eyes. But her dress was pretty much a teal and hot pink ripoff of Belle, which now I look back and cringe at because from a character design perspective that is genuinely terrible. As for the general storyline, there were supposed to be a couple of chapters of this manga introducing the characters a bit and showing them doing an investigation or two to provide what basic level of exposition I was capable of. At some point, a mansion that I never bothered to name was to be brought up, and apparently it was the real deal. It was actually haunted, and these kids really wanted to get in there and investigate it, but they could never find a way to without trespassing. Until they all received letters in the mail, invitations to a ball held at this very mansion. Now, due to them all being wealthy, nobility, whatever it is, ball invitations and party invitations were common, so their parents really didn't bat an eye at it, and they were allowed to go. Together, they all devised a plan of, you sneak off first and go investigate, then come back and I'll go. That kind of thing, so it wouldn't look suspicious or something. I don't know. However, when one of them attempted to, I honestly don't know what kept him from sneaking out. I never got that far in planning that scene. Curse you, young me. You give me no material. But, yeah, basically something prevented him from going off and investigating, and it was revealed that everyone else at the party and all the decorations and everything were an illusion created by a very powerful spirit, which edgy 14-year-old me gave the oh so cool and terrifying Google Translate romanized Japanese name of Kurushimi, otherwise translated as spirit of suffering. I honestly doubt that was even a correct translation. I honestly don't even remember why he chose these kids. It was probably something like them getting too close to some one-dimensional take over the world or open a portal to the spirit realm plotline. He trapped them all in the mansion, and the whole story was supposed to be them trying to get out, resulting in some of them dying either by the hand of the spirit or by their friends driven mad. Some mental torture with paranoia and illusions and nightmares, your typical poorly written psychological horror tropes. Included was also the typical creepy horror anime little girl trope, using the younger sister of one of the club members. It was later determined that the spirit pretty much fed off of insanity or something, so it was all making him more powerful. And that's it. That's all I had. I had considered ending it with the spirit actually succeeding, since I was, at the time, sick of horror movies and shows having some level of happy ending with people prevailing and preventing the apocalypse, or whatever it was they were trying to fight. Which is so typical of an edgy, I'm not like other kids teenager. Like, I didn't understand the concept of vying for a sequel, or, you know, maybe people just don't want to watch the world end constantly. But anyway, I digress. Now I've actually decided to rework her character a bit. She's still very friendly in the face of the club, and I plan on maintaining the wealthy status of at least her for the sake of their clothing for the ball at least, and their equipment. She's kind of morphed in my mind into this character who's more set on spectral communication than anything else. And I'm considering making her reasoning something along the lines of communicating with a deceased relative. Either Route A, it was someone close to her that died suddenly, which I know is kind of overdone in story deaths, but it could provide some level of relatability for her character at least. That, or there was some kind of rumor of scandals in the methods her family used to gain their wealth, as they are relatively new money by comparison to most others, and the family members who began her ascent, or their ascent I should say, have passed. She wants to be able to speak against the accusations with confidence, though she also doesn't know what she'll find in communicating with them. She's also not really one to flaunt her wealth, but she also sees nothing wrong with convincing her father to help fund her endeavors. Her parents don't really understand her hobbies, but they are willing to support her if it gets her to make friends and socialize. Upon meeting her, she certainly isn't someone you would expect to be wealthy. She's relatively naive and impulsive, and unafraid to speak her mind on any matter, but often doing so without thinking about the way she's speaking. This gets her in a lot of hot water with other people, as she means well, but her phrasing often isn't interpreted as such. She also tends to steer clear of expensive or fancy everyday clothing, while her dad is almost never seen without an expensive suit, and her mother flaunts designer dresses. Sienna usually dresses very casually, so as not to draw attention to her wealth. Her biggest fear is someone befriending her only to use her for her money. That, and her mother's porcelain doll collection. She just can't stand the way their intricately detailed but lifeless eyes look right through her. While she's very smart, she's nearly useless physically. She has decent endurance, slightly above average, but nowhere near that of an athlete. And aside from that, she's about as strong as overcooked pasta. But she's also very protective of the few friends she has, often resulting in her boyfriend pulling her away from danger in order to keep her from getting hurt. And that's really as far as I've gotten in rewriting her, and her story. If these videos and characters end up interesting people, I may honestly try to rewrite the entire story and put out the comic I originally intended. But I don't really know. If that's the case, I'll end up putting out more character designs, not just for their ball outfits, but I'd assume these kids, with their plans of sneaking around, would have other clothing beneath their fancy dresses and things, which would make it convenient for me so I don't have to draw these intricate dresses in every single panel. Anyway, that's all I've really got for this, but the redesign continues. I couldn't really speed it up anymore without it causing motion sickness for me to watch it. So I hope you guys enjoy the remainder of the video. If you'd like to see more of my work, feel free to follow me on the social medias that I'll link down below. Instagram, Twitter, iFunny, Discord. I do run a patron-only Discord server, though my Patreon is barely up and running at the moment, but I will be linking that down below as well. Thank you.